Hello, highly sensitive person. This is the Highly Sensitive Club, episode number 88. I am giving you a behind the scenes today of what's going on in this highly sensitive person's life and business. Every time my mentors do these behind the scenes, I always get super inspired and I like knowing what's going on besides what I'm seeing on YouTube or Instagram or in their podcasts. So I wanted to do the same thing for you today because I just had a birthday at the beginning of October. That is always a big time of year for me. And I had a huge number of insights. This was a big opening for me. So I thought, oh, this is the perfect opportunity for me to share this with you so that you can get your own insights and inspiration and motivation to do whatever you are working on in your life as well. This year I turned 35. So that feels like a milestone for me because I always think of tens and fives as mile markers in the chronological journey of life. So I'm in this powerful stage where a lot of things are moving and happening and transitioning in my life. And so many of the lessons that I've been learning for the last 5 years are starting to go into fruition in my next 5 years before I turn 40. As far as external celebrations, I had high tea with my two partners and my two very good friends. I had dinner and date nights with my loved ones and my family members. I had lots of friends who were so gracious to take me out for coffee or celebratory lunch and find ways to have time together because quality time is one of my big love languages. While I was thinking about all of these transitions that have been happening in my life, I noticed some trends. This is very typical for me around my birthday because I love October. I feel like I'm very much in my energy. I don't know about you, but it's my personal new year. I like to celebrate the new year because the calendar rolling over has its own clean slate, fresh energy to it. But there's something about my personal new year and the whole month of October being this big portal for me to step into a new way of being that I find really compelling. Over the last month, because it's beginning of November now, I've had a sense of things falling away in order to leave just the essentials in every category of my life. This is why I'm a life coach, because I am someone who works on improving every area of my life. I don't want to be okay. I don't want it to be just enough. I don't want to settle. I want every area of my life to be absolutely exceptional. My definition of exceptional has changed over the years because as I reach those goals, as I reach those tens, then I set new goals. I create a new version of what 10 is because I've recalibrated my life to a different kind of understanding. This year, I really find that every area of my life is becoming an exercise in simplification. All through the month of September and all through the month of October, on either side of this symmetry around my birthday on October 4th, I was doing all this mental decluttering, recalibration, and restructuring around the way I'm thinking about every area of my life in order to make it more essential, more meaningful, and more fulfilling. At times, this has been extremely uncomfortable because, in order to strip away all of the excess, ooh, I've had to face old limiting beliefs that have kept on coming back time and again in different versions. But as we grow and as we evolve as humans, as we transform into new versions of ourselves, every time those lessons come back, we get through them a little bit quicker, a little bit more efficiently, and we get through them a little more gracefully. So that as we go, they do come back around, but the spiral gets bigger and bigger, as my dear friend Pierre Bradet says. You can hear our interview together from one of the episodes in the 70s, which I will put in the show notes. He's a delight. Every time I share this analogy, people really resonate with it. My spiral has come back around on a lot of things, and I am noticing that I get through them more quickly, but it is also deeply uncomfortable. I'll give you just a high level version of what's going on in each of my areas with some examples so you have some specifics because I think stories are really compelling. And then I'll go into a little bit more detail of the overall picture on the other side. My main two priorities over the last 4 months since I started doing one-on-one coaching for with my coach, I'm getting coached weekly, are time and money. I noticed this pattern where I was getting in my own way, as we do as highly sensitive people, where I was creating fires that I had to put out. And I was creating crises essentially in order to keep my resourcefulness muscle or my grit muscle strong. I had this belief that in order to be prepared to handle something that I need resilience for in the future, I need to constantly keep the scrappy, gritty part of myself up to date. This is very comical to me because life itself brings you challenging situations. Life will bring you people who push your buttons and obstacles for you to overcome and grow from. The fact that I was creating more obstacles and more trouble for myself, pretty humorous when you look back at it, because life provides you with plenty of challenges and struggles without you having to add more to it. I've really been working on my ability to think more strategically, think ahead, and to prepare for things so that I feel like I'm on top of them or even ahead of them rather than reacting to things constantly. For my time, this looks like being more thoughtful, more strategic, thinking ahead, because I used to think 1 week at a time. I would look at my schedule on Sunday night or Monday morning, look at my week, who I was going to talk to, where I needed my head to be, what tasks I needed to get done. And that was about as far as I would look. Now I've been stretching my capacity to look further into the future. My caveat here is that, of course, yes, I've been able to look ahead to the holidays. I've been able to look ahead to the following year and make plans. Those things are happening. And in my day to day life, I was very narrow in my focus and really only looking 1 week ahead. So I've been slowly expanding my capacity by being able to look 2 weeks ahead. When I feel comfortable looking 2 weeks ahead, then I will push my capacity to 3 weeks ahead. I know this might seem like it's nothing at all, but I also know that you may resonate with a piece of this that you're only looking at the day ahead or the next day ahead. Maybe even looking at the entire week at once could be a challenge for you. Wherever you fall with this, I want you to know that this is normal. We all go through this in whatever version. There's no correct or perfect amount of time that you quote unquote should be looking forward to. Whatever your time capacity is, it's something that you can expand and grow so that you feel more prepared and more in control of your time. As far as money, time and money are very closely tied for me, as they are for a lot of people. And they tend to be energetically very similar to each other in my mind and in my body. The way that I think about time tends to be very parallel to how I think about money. If time feels very tight and I feel like I'm very busy, typically money feels a little tighter and like I have to distribute it and control it very heavily. While I've been creating more spaciousness and looking further ahead with my time, with my money, I've been doing balance yin yang to it because I've been looking at the money that I already have, feeling it in my body, and owning that sense of sufficiency, that sense of enoughness. If I can really get myself into a new energetic state, I can find instances of abundance. Let me give you an example because I work with a lot of women and I notice a trend that typically men don't worry so much about their physical security, but women do. If you're a man who worries about your physical security, I don't want to exclude you. I imagine you will probably resonate with this. But for a lot of women, if you really peel the onion and get down to our worst fears, it has something to do with I'm going to have no place to live, no money, no possessions, and I'm going to be a bag lady living under a bridge. Most of us, if we go really far into catastrophizing, go all the way to being homeless, penniless, living out of a bag or a shopping cart. I have had this in my body where anytime my brain starts to stress about money, it catastrophizes and says, what would happen if I had to figure out where to live and I had to do it on short notice? Some of this is a resilience muscle, but some of it is just fear being activated and my highly sensitive brain preparing me in advance and saying, what would I do? What I determined is that if something did happen, an emergency or something really catastrophic, I have 4 people that I could name off the top of my head who would let me at least stay with them temporarily. If I had to couch surf for a little while until I could find my own apartment or until I could figure out my living situation, I could do that. But it means that I have 4 different safety nets before I get to homeless, penniless, bag lady status. This is just a small example of how money tends to work in our minds, but I wanted to share it with you because whatever your version of catastrophizing, your highly sensitive brain is very vivid. It's very vibrant. It is good at coming up with these elaborate, detailed versions of what the worst case scenario could be. Worse yet, our highly sensitive brains are just as good at coming up with a vague sense of impending doom that we don't take the time to make concrete and specific and therefore able to address. It just feels like this looming shadow hanging out in the background, waiting to consume us and engulf us in this doom. So, if your highly sensitive brain is working against you, getting into that sufficiency in your body, maybe doing a little bit of problem solving like I did, but really focusing on all the things that you do have. And not just material possessions, but your connections, your support system, the love you have in your life in all its different forms. That in itself can tap you back into a sense of sufficiency, enoughness, and even abundance. In relationships, in my close relationships, in my networking, in my loose friendships, in my clients, in my mentees, I'm looking to go deeper, not wider. There was a season that I wanted to meet a lot of new people. I wanted to get out there. I wanted to practice sharing what I do as a coach for highly sensitive people. I was so excited to go into networking events and just be in that energy. I've discovered that I've reached a place where, in seeking to meet more and more new people, I have let go of some of those threads of the people that I've met that I really resonated with. As a relationship focused person, I really want to pull those threads in tighter, make deeper connections with the people I already have, because I would rather go deeper than wider. That's just my nature as a highly sensitive person. My strategy to meet as many new people as possible and go wider and cast my net as wide as I possibly could only served me for so long. I feel like my net is wide enough. And now I want to shore up those threads. I want to make sure that I'm keeping the people that I am connecting with and resonating with closer. I want to know more about them. I want to express my curiosity. I want to share things with them because vulnerability is part of this process of building deeper relationships with people, whether they're super close to me or whether they're more distant, looser relationships. There's still a level of intimacy that you can build with people at all these different distances from you psychologically. The way that you navigate those with protection and boundaries really shows how you can go deeper and have fulfilling connections with people as a highly sensitive person without taking on other people's emotions, taking on other people's stuff that you feel like you have to fix or rescue, or getting so invested in other people's drama that you don't take care of yourself. It is possible to build those deep connections while also maybe not seeing people super frequently. You can still maintain those connections. So that's what I'm focusing on in relationships, pulling in the net a little bit and just going deeper with the people that I've built connections with already, because those are already so fulfilling. In health, one of my favorite authors is James Clear. And the big quote that I pulled from his book, which I'm going to paraphrase, is people think that they will rise to the level of their aspirations, but ultimately we fall to the level of our systems or habits, in other words. When we're motivated and inspired and full of commitment and determination, usually at the beginning of a goal, we have these lofty dreams and aspirations that we want to go towards because they're so compelling and they fill us with so much vigor. Then it reaches a point where things get hard, things don't go as expected, and we fall to the level of whatever our habit is. At that point, if you have built a really strong foundation for yourself, when you fall to the level of your systems or to your habits, usually that's just doing the basics. Let's say that you have a lofty goal to go to the gym 5 days a week. You go for a few weeks and it's going really well, and it goes to 4 days a week, and then it goes to 3 days a week. If you have built a strong foundation of I go at least once a week, you will fall to the level of going once a week. If your strong foundation or your not so strong foundation is the gym is too far away, it's too inconvenient, I'm too busy, you'll fall to that level. So it's important to build your habits from the ground up, taking those little steps along the way and expanding on them a little bit at a time, not trying to go big or go home. For some people, that does work. But I find for most habits and for most people, the slow, gradual process is much more effective long term and much more sustainable than the go big, go home method. There are exceptions to that rule, but I'm just talking in a general sense. That's how you build habits. And that really comes back to health. That comes back to health in movement, which means that I'm focusing on going for walks and doing yoga stretches. That's my base level that I'm building on top of. For my food, it means that I'm doing everything I can to avoid flour products, sugar, and very minimal dairy, because those are the things that my body does not process well, and or they trigger a big psychological urge or craving that I need to process through in a coaching context so that I can change my brain around it. I'm going back to basics because I'm focusing in other areas, but at least when I fall to those core systems, I can incrementally increase over time. In my business, because this is related to every other topic I've already talked about, I'm doubling down on my clients, which is that relationship piece. I'm focusing on over delivering, cleaning up my systems, and creating a really consistent experience. I feel like I've leveled up over the last few months as far as my ability to take something qualitative, which is experience or the shifts that are happening internally for my clients, and finding ways to quantify them so that they can see tangible progress. That I was able to get this amount of things done in my home, or I was able to show up to my movement goals this amount of times. It could even be something like I felt like a 4 at the beginning of the session. Now I feel like an 8. I started at a 2 confidence when we first started working together, and now my baseline is a 6 or a 7 confidence. All those tangible pieces are creating a more fulfilling experience for my clients, but it's also making it very clear for both of us what the results actually are and whether it's working or not. I'm making all these fine tuning adjustments to my business that are taking it deeper instead of wider and really focusing in on what is working well about this process and what can I improve and tweak and make better. This means, as you've noticed from both the podcast and from YouTube, if you're checking the dates or if you've been following live, that means I've been creating less content and been doing less online marketing so that I can do more organic in person marketing, showing up to networking events, following up with people, building deep, intense connections person to person rather than trying to bombard them with content. I still like the content, obviously. I'm an avid podcast listener and I see a ton of value in it. But I also know that it was pulling away from a lot of the focuses that I'm trying to have right now. It was creating a lot of stress and I didn't feel aligned with it and I wasn't excited, which means my energy around it just didn't align with my intention. So I decided to go from weekly podcasts and YouTube videos to every other week podcasts and YouTube videos. And that cadence has calmed my nervous system so much. I'm really proud that I was able to do 75 episodes continuously week after week for a year and a half, be able to challenge my capacity and pull myself forward and coach myself through those challenges. That felt really good. And I also feel really proud of my decision to back off to every other week because it's still consistent. I can still share really interesting things with you that I think will help you improve your life and inspire you or spark a new insight. And it feels more doable for where I'm putting my energy, which is really doubling down on my clients and making sure they're getting phenomenal results. In my fun, I noticed as a recovering productivity junkie that I had started to treat my entertainment and my decompression activities, my reset activities, like a completion list. I was treating my podcasts like a to-do list. I was adding on more things because I thought that I would feel good checking those things off my list. And I found myself bringing in more books or checking my phone constantly, looking for a new podcast episode or checking to see if my book had come in on the Libby app, even checking my emails compulsively several times a day, not for the sake of waiting for something in particular or feeling like I needed the dopamine hit of a new email, but because I was trying to keep my inbox at zero constantly. It was like I was trying to sweep out and dust the same thing over and over again in my mind throughout the day. It's interesting that I wasn't looking for an email that was exciting. I was looking to clear the emails so that I could take a task off my list. This has been a huge reframe for me. I actually took a break. I unsubscribed from every email list I could find that has been sending me regular emails, even the ones I like, even the ones that I intend to go back on. I unsubscribed from everything so that I could just release that compulsion to complete things. I unsubscribed from podcasts and I'm taking a break from that just for the moment, except for the one podcast that focuses on my growth goal, which is related to where I'm putting my energy right now. That's the only one that I'm continuing because I'm specifically learning from that mentor. Everything else, all the distractions, gone. And I'm focusing in the moment on what would feel good to do, not what I want to have completed. This is a huge shift in my mind. And I think because I've been working so hard not to hustle in my business, my brain was like, well, we got to hustle somewhere. We got to check off our to do list somewhere. So I'm going to turn my fun into a to do list, which doesn't make it fun anymore. That pull to complete things in my fun in order to complete a to do list, I'm letting it go. And that feels really good. So in the moment, I might decide I'm going to read a book. I have been getting really into Stardew Valley again, so I might want to go play some Stardew. I might want to take a walk. Hilariously, I thought, what would I like to have done at the end of the day, a day last week? And I thought, I really want to do some digital decluttering. I feel like that would be really enjoyable and fun. It helps me sort my brain. I was a professional organizer in my previous business, and I still need that kind of mental processing and that sorting that you do when you're organizing as a way for my brain to rest so that it can think about other things and come up with other tasks. There's something about deleting the files or reorganizing the folders or letting go of duplicate photos that helps me relax and feel like I am sorting through my mind while I'm sorting through something tangible. And I felt great at the end of that day, whether I'm reading a book, doing organizing, watching a great show, going for a walk. I've been learning to be present and just feel really, really good with it. In the spiritual realm, I discovered a book a few months ago called It's Not Your Money by Tosha Silver. You can find it on Audible. You can find it in bookstores. It's a fabulous book, very tiny. It's formatted as an 8-week course, and it's about how to tap into a sense of divine abundance instead of constantly feeling like you're battling your own scarcity mindset. I have wanted to tap into something more spiritual for a long time, and I knew that this book was meant to come to me because I had no memory of where it came from. I put in a request at the library, and then weeks later, it appeared. My request was ready, and I was like, where did I get this title? I don't remember anything about this. But I started reading it, and my whole being, my body just had this sense of relief reading this book. It's Not Your Money. I did the step-by-step process, the 8-week process. It's very simple. There's a lot of internal work, but also external tangible work as well. And it really started to change the way that I was being and the way that I showed up to things. Other than saying the mantra or the prayer and expressing gratitude and not speaking about scarcity, trying to let go of those thoughts and getting coached on them regularly, which I do. The other thing that was really interesting for me is that in a lot of manifestation, abundance kind of stuff, they tell you to declutter because it helps you create a vacuum for the universe to fill it with your intentions. Sometimes it gets filled with things that you don't want, but that's okay. You declutter those too. Decluttering is one of my comfortable zones. It's one of my safety spots. So I was like, universe, I've got this. I will declutter. This is totally doable. I donated 2 pieces of clothing, 3 books I hadn't read, and I was like, done. Check the box. I was trying to have a conversation with the universe, and I was like, what's my next step? Like, show me the guidance, show me my intuitive hit. Like, what am I supposed to do? And while I was trying to do this, my brain was like, did you reschedule that client? By the way, you need to schedule your coffee date. Did you return that email? Oh my gosh, did I go back to that to-do list? I was so distracted by the 85, yes, 85 tasks that I was constantly keeping track of in my mind that I wasn't taking care of, that I couldn't actually connect to my intuition. I couldn't connect to the universe because I was so distracted with my task list. The funny thing was, none of these things were particularly important, which is why they kept getting shoved to the side. They weren't important as far as purposeful, but they also weren't important as far as urgent or for someone else or for a deadline. As a whole, they became a weight on my mind and on my spirit. I had to take a whole day. It took me 5 hours to go through every single one of these tasks. Some of them I literally just took off the list. I was like, I'm done having this on the list. I'm not going to do it. It doesn't excite me. I'm ready to just let this go. And that felt really exciting and compelling. But a lot of them just took 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes to complete. A software update for my new laptop so it would connect to the Bluetooth on my printer. I had that running while I was taking care of old emails that needed a response so that I could just catch up on things. I started to become addicted to the sense of relief I have of things being complete and off of my task list. A lot of the procrastination that I felt as a perfectionist has started to fade because I'm starting to tap into that sense of relief and satisfaction that I get by not having this task list. Every time I build up the task list again and I have 15 to 20 tasks, it starts to feel overwhelming again. I get that sense of anxiety in my body again. And I think, oh, I did it again. I built up these tasks that didn't feel important, but still need to get done. And now it's become a project that I'm going to have to take 2 to 3 hours to do. I'm being very conscientious about taking care of these things a little bit at a time so that they don't build up. And that's part of why I decluttered my email inbox because some of those tasks were emails. Now I've really gotten it down to just correspondence, which makes me feel really good because it's almost like going to your mailbox and you're just getting cards and letters from people. It feels very much like that. So, in this process of mentally decluttering, restructuring and recalibrating the way that I approach my decisions, my life, I'm able to pull in my analytical decision making side, but I'm also connecting to my intuition and my emotions much more quickly. That's the high level version of how all of these things have been showing up in my life and where I'm going with them now, where I'm putting my focus. And the theme overall is simplifying and letting things fall away so that I can get down to my absolute essentials. What are the most important things, the most compelling things for me? And how do I double down on those things instead of just adding on more tasks for the sake of feeling like I'm being busy or I'm hustling for a sense of satisfaction? This has been mental, time, and distraction decluttering. And I am so happy that I've been able to let some of these things fall away, even things that I still like or I still enjoyed. One of the things, for instance, is exiting my volunteer leadership opportunities. There was a season where I really wanted to practice stepping into leadership roles, and these volunteer organizations were a great way for me to practice those skills. But between teaching at my coach training program school, mentoring some of those students, showing up and doing my own workshops, doing the podcast and creating content creation, I don't feel like I need help being in front of people speaking about things anymore. I'm ready to step down. I'm ready to get out of situations where I've taken on lots of responsibility. And I don't know about you, highly sensitive person, but I tend to think, oh, that's a great idea. And suddenly it goes on my to do list without me carefully examining, is that worthwhile? Is it worth my time, my energy, and my attention? Is it actually going to create progress for the organization or for my role? I just added things because they seemed like great ideas. Now that I'm stepping down, I'm on the slow glide out of these organizations, I have this tremendous sense of peace because while I have loved being part of those groups, I feel complete around them. I feel like my role has come to an end and I might go back to them sometime in the future. But in the season I'm in, I want to focus in on what I'm doing well for my business instead of creating the structure and facilitating other people's organizations. Being in my current season and letting go of those old commitments has been so freeing. And it's also been a process. I almost feel like I've had a death grip on some of these things, and it's been slowly peeling one finger away at a time so that I can fully release so many of the things I've been holding to so tightly. As an avid tarot and oracle reader, if you're familiar with tarot, you might be familiar with the Tower card. It's one of the major arcana cards, and the Tower card is a tumultuous period where things fall away in order to leave you with the base of the tower, the actual structure and what's important. One of my dear friends who has been reading tarot for decades refers to this as major self directed change. This is a season for me of being in the tower. It's a major self directed change where I'm actively decluttering things that don't serve me in this season. They might be great things, they might be things that I enjoy, they might be things that I have loved or connections I want to maintain. But the way that I've been approaching them needs to change and evolve with me in order for them to stay in my life. That is what the last 6 months have been about. I am no longer fighting fires that I've created. And when I do, I give myself grace, I recognize my old identity, and then I get right back into my new identity as someone who's strategic and thoughtful and a leader in and of my own right. I'm tapping into my own sense of sovereignty instead of constantly being a firefighter. I'm connecting to a bigger vision, meaning looking further ahead, but really, why am I interested in all of these things? Because I want to make an impact. I want to connect with people, and I'm letting guidance come in the form of other people, in the form of opportunities, and in the form of guidance and intuition from the universe as I'm moving forward with this process. One of the things that has been a big part of that is feeling my emotions in a big way. I have podcast episodes about feeling your feels. I have a free workshop that you can find on my website, stephanielynn.com, about feeling your feels. I also have an entire program I taught, a 6-week program on how to do emotional regulation so that you don't feel like you're in constant fight or flight mode. And as a highly sensitive person, this will help you regulate so that you can get out of survival mode and into thriving. I have been digging into some of the most excruciating emotional experiences of my entire life in my coaching over the last few months. I have been going to deeper places than I have ever gone. I have been expressing emotions that I have never expressed in this way. And I have to say, it's really satisfying to expand my capacity this way, but it is excruciating in the moment. Feeling your emotions and expanding your emotional capacity is deeply uncomfortable. What's really uncomfortable about this experience is that my proprioception, my senses of the external world, my idea of where I am in time and space externally, in the quiet of my office, birds singing in the background, cats milling up and down the hallway, it's peaceful. While my interoception, my experience of my emotions and of my internal body in the moment has been like a 9 out of 10 or a 9.5 out of 10. It's been so intense, feeling disappointment, feeling resentment, feeling embarrassment and shame, feeling guilt, feeling sadness, feeling panic. I have to say, I have a pretty comfortable relationship with a lot of the big emotions, but going to this level of these emotions was more than I thought I could handle. And by going through them, I realized that I'm so much bigger than the emotions that I'm feeling in the moment. I've been going deep, and in doing that, I have been able to show up for my clients in big, deep ways. I had a client recently who was essentially experiencing a panic attack, and we were able to have an emergency session, and they were able to calm their body down so that they weren't shaking, they weren't nauseated, they weren't having a headache, and they could just be present. They went from a 9.75 to a 1 in the course of this hour. That is how powerful feeling these intense emotions can be, because otherwise, with this client, they'd felt it for days and days and days, and it was building. By holding space for it for an hour, they were able to move forward. There are still spikes. The emotion still comes back. I experience that as well. But when you fully feel it and you give it space, you're able to move through it more quickly and you feel clean on the other side. So if there are emotions that you've been avoiding, make space for them. Make space for that emotional regulation. Find a practitioner or a provider, like a coach, but it could be some other provider who can help you hold space for those emotions. because working through them is the way forward. You can't keep avoiding them and distracting. You're just building resistance and you're making it worse ultimately because you're prolonging the experience of pain and you're suffering because of it. It does not have to be a struggle if you're actually willing to face yourself and have that dual experience of your body and your external world is completely safe, but my internal world feels extremely uncomfortable and I'm willing to be with it anyway. I can hold the safety and the unsafe feeling at the same time to work through it. That has been one of my biggest powerful moments over these past few months. And it makes me feel so much more connected to my body, my heart, my spirit, and my intuition, in addition to my mental space that I already feel is very powerful. This means that I've been showing up bigger and deeper for everyone I meet. I'm showing up differently. I'm being differently, especially for my clients and for my loved ones. This is a big transitional period in my life, and I like that I'm going deeper. I'm challenging myself to be this bigger, more expansive version of myself. And I like the way that I'm showing up because it suits my value of growth and regularly improving in these incremental ways while being present, grateful, and enjoying the experience of growth in the moment instead of being focused on what's down the road in the future. It's a feeling of patience and acceptance for where I am in the moment, knowing that the result will come, but it's going to take time, and that's okay. I'm here for it. If I can experience excruciating disappointment and shame, then I can be patient for my goals taking a little while to get to me. Absolutely. I'm showing up deeply for myself in this way, not just in the emotional regulation and in my spiritual practice, which continues to grow, but I'm spending quality time with myself. I took time last Saturday, a 2 hour block of time, had a whole conversation with myself, some coaching, some being a friend to myself, the way I would be a friend to my loved ones, and building a connection with these different parts of who I am, my emotional aspect, my spiritual aspect, my intuition, and balancing that with my mental world, which is very vivid, very imaginative. My mental space is very well developed already. So I'm keeping that where it is and maybe expanding it a little bit at a time while I'm bringing up my body expression and my feeling. I'm bringing up my emotional regulation and intelligence. I'm bringing up my intuition and my spiritual sacred feelings so that they match my mental priority and they all become balanced. I am a Libra, so balance is constantly a thing I'm working towards, but I'm really starting to feel all of them working together as a team. All of this to say, my birthday is an anniversary. And anytime there's an anniversary, whether it's an event or whether it's a grief, whether it's a celebration, whatever your anniversary is, it's almost like you're putting a little pinprick in time and you can look at where you are now and you can look at yourself back in the past. You can also project yourself into the future. And it's like you're connecting yourself by this one date. When I did that, thinking about where I was 10 years ago to my 25-year-old self, I thought, wow, she would be fascinated by where I am now, the life that I'm living now, the beautiful apartment I'm in, having my own office, working with a dozen clients who I meet with once a week, helping mentees and students, running practice coaching calls and running workshops. That version of me would be blown away by what I've been able to accomplish at this point. What if that 25-year-old version of me had just fast forwarded to the 35-year-old version of me? What if she'd just been handed the kind of success that I have worked for the last 10 years to earn? Would she be able to handle it? Would she be able to run a practice coaching lesson? Would she be able to mentor coaching students? Would she be able to provide really high quality, deep results to her coaching clients? Would she know what to do? And the answer is no. She would be completely unprepared to just step into the life that I'm living every day. Would she be prepared to navigate the relationships that I'm in or overcome the challenges that I am figuring out in my money, in my health, in my time? Would she be equipped to handle those things? The answer is no. My 25-year-old self would not know the first thing about what to do with the life that I have now. And that's not a bad thing. What that creates for me as far as perspective is that 25-year-old self was the one who planted the seed. She's the one who came up with the vision. She's the one who said, wow, it would be really cool to help people. I would love to be an entrepreneur. I would love to have powerful conversations with people. I would love to talk to people anywhere in the world and help them make their lives better in any area they want to. She would love that. She would love the way that my relationships look. She would love the home that we're living in. She would love the two cats that we have now. She planted those seeds. She created the vision and the goal. And I'm the one who took the steps and overcame the challenges, grew my skills, grew my experience, fell flat on my face, cried my eyeballs out, and then picked myself up again and did it again and again until I got proficiency, until I became capable, until I'm the person who does these things naturally and gets better and better at them all the time. I did that because I needed those 10 years in between her and me in order to learn what I needed to learn and become the person I needed to become in order to live this life. It gave me perspective to help me detach from some of my goals that I have now and the vision that I've created for the future. Anytime I start to feel patient, I think about that 10-year gap from where I was then to where I am now and what the next 10-year gap could look like. What's the 45-year-old version of me going to be able to do? And what experience and wisdom and skills is she going to learn that I can plant the seeds for now, knowing that it's going to take the 10 years to get there? Wherever I am at 45 in 10 years, that's the journey that I was meant to experience. And those were the things that I meant to have as obstacles and challenges for me to be able to strengthen who I'm being to get to that point. It helps me have perspective. It helps me have patience. It helps me have hope. And it helps me enjoy being in the process where I am now from a grounded space, not from the space of grasping, not from the space of being in a hurry, not from the space of feeling like I have to hustle or do more or check off more boxes in order to get there. I did take action over the last 10 years. Absolutely. I took a ton of action. I took a ton of risks. I took a ton of leaps. And I've also overcome a lot of challenges. That's part of the process. What really happened was that I changed the way that I see myself. I changed the way that I show up in the world. I change who I'm being every single time I take those actions. I reinforce it in my brain. I reinforce it by building new habits. I reinforce it by showing up to conversations and my own life differently every single moment and every single day. And is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it normal that I would go forward 2 steps and back 3 steps, and then forward 2 steps again, and then maybe back 1 step, and then I go forward 5 steps, and then I go back 2 steps? That's normal. That's all part of the process. There have been seasons where I've been completely stagnant. Nothing was happening. There have been seasons where I had to go really deep to do healing, so I couldn't move forward because I needed to get back to foundations. And that's the kind of season that I'm in now. These phoenix seasons where things burn down to the beginning so that they can be reborn anew and create a new version of me. Every time I go through one of these phoenix seasons, I come out more powerful on the other side. And I want that for you too. I want to put this in perspective for you because our challenges and our obstacles are here to help us go from where we were to who we've become now. And they help us go from where we are now to where we want to go in the future. This is why you hire a coach, because the coach helps you go from where you are now to where you are in the future. If you want to do the processing about how you got from your past self to here, go find a great therapist, go find a counselor. My counselor was crucial in helping me go through my first Phoenix season and really step into this process. But if you want a coach, we can help you move forward. And that's what I'm working on now with my coach. That's what I'm focusing on. Who am I building into? What am I letting go of? And what is really at my core? What's at the studs and the foundation of this building that I'm rebuilding from scratch, where I'm keeping the best parts of what I've already done and I'm learning and growing and building on new pieces. I want to share this with you because this is just one highly sensitive person's experience, but it's also an experience that I see reflected from my clients and from other highly sensitive people I talk to. It's the reason that I share this content. It's the reason that I help highly sensitive people because so many HSPs, highly sensitive people, don't even know that high sensitivity is a thing. They don't know that their neurodiversity is not a spectrum disorder. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It's just that your brain and your nervous system function differently than the average person. There's nothing wrong with you. I want as many highly sensitive people to know that they are highly sensitive as I can possibly reach. I want to raise awareness, and I want to empower you to create a transformation, shift, growth, improvement from surviving with your high sensitivity to truly thriving with it. My very first podcast episode from almost 2 years ago, January 11th, 2024, was about going from surviving to maintaining to thriving with high sensitivity. And I use my own story as an example. I still do that every single day with my coaching clients. And I want you to have that as well. I also want to connect with people like you who would otherwise feel isolated and alone and disconnected. There are so many more of us than you know, and that's why I continue to put the word out there. I continue to create the content on a sustainable process for myself, and I continue to grow and go deeper and deeper so that I can help you with this content and I can help my clients and my mentees go deeper into what they want to improve as well. Even my theme song for this podcast is called No Longer Lonely. And it's appropriate because I want you to know that you belong somewhere and that you have so many superpowers as a highly sensitive person to improve every area of your life. That's why I'm a life coach for highly sensitive people, because I see it for myself. I don't want to just work on one area. I want to work on 2 areas or 3 areas at once. I want to be able to toggle between them because they're all related to each other. When I'm done with those 3, I'm going to switch to another 3 because I want my entire life to be a thriving example of what's possible for me and for others, and to go as deep as I possibly can into those dark, shadowy spaces, because then I can do that for other people too. So I want you to think, as I'm wrapping up this episode, what's your personal new year? Is it a birthday, or is it the anniversary of something else? Is it a season? I know some people have fall as kind of their personal new year. It just feels like a different season for you where things change over. What's your personal new year, and what does it open up for you? What's the portal that it creates that you can walk into? What challenges are in your life, and how can you reframe them as challenges that are meant for you to overcome as part of your growth instead of feeling like they're things that are holding you back? Ultimately, all challenges are there to help you grow your muscle to overcome them so that you can become the version of you that you want to become. Where are your challenges, and how are they there for your benefits to help you strengthen whatever muscle and quality you're trying to grow? And finally, what support or abundance or resources do you already have around you right now? Where is your sense of sufficiency and your sense of havingness? I know you have goals. I know you have desires. We all want things. And when you come from the grounded place where you can look at your goals, but you can also be completely centered in who you are and your life right now, you have that sense of enoughness and sufficiency that can then expand into abundance. You can tap into that right now. You can experience the safety of the environment you're in. You can see the parts of where you are that feel supportive and special and like exactly what you want. You can think about the relationships and all the good things about them that you can build on. They don't have to be perfect. There's always challenges, but where are things going really, really well so that you can connect to that while you're growing in another direction towards your highest self? That is the behind the scenes. There has been a lot going on, and I love sharing my stories and my clients' stories so that it helps you put things in perspective for you or spark a new insight that you can take into your life too. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening. If you're ready to take what you learned today to the next level, head over to Stephanie Linn, that's LINN.com, and book a consultation call to get started. I can't wait to see you there, my dear HSP.